You're watching Pyro Media Network. Hello, Pyro Media family. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience with us is fruitful. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. And we do hope you consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hey, family, welcome back to It's Just Kim. But as you can see, it's not just Kim. It's Kim and him. I'm happy to have my husband with me today. We're going to chat it up today about a very interesting topic. And I think I titled it Stop Raising Your Adult Children, because we tend to do that as parents sometimes of adult children, or we at least try. And honestly, it's kind of like if you haven't done it already and they're adults, it's not a whole lot of raising that you can do with adult children. You just can't. That's why we have that time from the time they're born up until they're 18, 19, 20, 21, to do a lot of the raising and teaching and disciplining and all that kind of stuff. Because once they cross a certain age, or once they start feeling like they're adults, or they start wanting to have more independence, then any type of raising or disciplining that you're going to try to do with them they're not going to take too well to it. Okay, I don't care how nice your child is, how sweet and kind and obedient they are. When you get to a point where a young person feels like they are an adult, and they need some respect. And I'm going to talk about that word. I was having a very interesting conversation with my HR person today at work about young people and respect. And but once they feel like they get to a certain place in their life, they want to be treated like adults. And here's the thing. Sometimes, even when you know that they are not quite all the way there, I think it's probably more beneficial to at least start treating them.
Working towards it.
Working towards, that adult type relationship with your adult children. And it almost sounds like an oxymoron, the whole title, Stop Raising Your Adult Kids, because we know that adults are not kids. But sometimes adults act like kids. And so that's why it's so important for us as parents to do everything that we can to raise our children the way they should be raised, to do everything that we can while they're young, while they're teachable, while they're moldable and pliable. That when they're young, they absorb so much more. That's why if you're going to be teaching a child a second language when they're young, that's the best time to do it because they absorb everything. And so we have to be careful in what we do, how we behave, how we treat our parents in front of them, because they're learning that and they're taking all of that in, and that's becoming a part of who they are. I remember being a young person, like 7, 8, and I remember visiting my grandmother in San Francisco, and my grandmother had 9 children, and so my mother was kind of like in the middle of that 9, and she had some siblings that were maybe like anywhere from 5 to maybe 10 years older than her, and then she had some siblings who were actually probably anywhere from 2 or 3 to even maybe 18 years younger than her. And so I remember watching my mother interact with her mother and how she respected her and how she spoke to my mom. But then I watched how my youngest aunt interacted with my grandmother and how it was completely different. And I clearly remember asking my mom, why did she talk to grandma like that? And my mom said, because she lets her. Because she lets her do it, and she's older and she's probably tired of raising kids. And that happens.
It is what it is.
That happens, okay?
That's not a Freudian slip.
That's not a Freudian slip. Sometimes, when you have kids from one range to the other, you get a little tired. Burnout. So as an example, right? So our youngest is 11 years younger than the one who was the youngest. And the other 3 on up, they swear that we did not do to her what we did to them. We let her get away with whatever and all this stuff. We didn't see it that way, but we probably did. But, one of the things that I know is that being a young parent, there were things that we thought we had to stay on top of. We just had to boom, 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 be on top of that,
Like Christian getting dressed.
Yeah. And so we learned as we got older, and we gained experience parenting, that some of that stuff is really not important. And, some of the disciplinary ways of the way we disciplined our children, when the older ones got older and then we had our youngest, it was just kind of like, let's talk to her. Let's see how that works. And then kids are different. So we were able to talk to her. I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I, got the tap out for that one. But yeah, it's all about teaching and molding and being an example and just nurturing, so that your child will grow up to be an adult that they can turn around and do the same thing for their kids.
Like you said, being young parents, you kind of freak out on some stuff. I want you to share a story about Christian and her getting dressed. I know you shared on other shows.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad was like, hey,
Yeah.
I think it's worth sharing right now.
Okay. So I often tell this story about being a young mom. So at that time, my daughter, my oldest, was 4 or 5. And then my youngest, well, at the time, my youngest was my daughter, my middle daughter. And she had just been christened. So we had a bunch of people at the house for dinner. And she was a baby. So I sent my older daughter in to her room to go get dressed. So at this point, she could dress herself.
Clothes you had laid out.
So I had clothes laid out, for her to look really super cute. And she went in the room and she put on all her favorite things. Mind you, all her favorite things didn't match. Not one thing matched.
Patterns or colors.
Nothing. So when she walked out of the room, I freaked all the way out.
Mortified.
I'm thinking, oh my God, I got all these people in the house, all these people looking at her. She looked crazy. She got on shoes that don't match her skirt, socks that don't match her top. Nothing matched. She had on a Christmas top. It was in what, February, March. So for me, it was just, oh, I was tripping, basically. Fast forward to my granddaughter. So when my granddaughter was born, she and her mom lived with us for a while. And she would go in that room, and when I tell you, she would get dressed in the strangest things, but it was hilarious to me. And it was funny, and it was her being creative.
Like it was with Paul was Christian.
With my father-in-law, he thought she was cute. He told her, oh, baby, you look so beautiful. And I turned around and did the same thing. And that was because I grew up and I matured and I realized that some things are just not that important. It's not that big of a deal, so yeah. So, those are some of the challenges. That's lightweight. But, there's some of the little challenges that you have in raising your children. But what happens when your children become adults? And so let's ask this question. What age do you think your child is an adult? What age do you think? You can put it in the chat. What age do you feel like, oh, my child's an adult? At 18, at 21, at 25? What age do you feel like, oh, he or she is an adult? So you can put that in the chat if you will. But one of the things, legally, of course, children are considered adults at the age of 18. Okay. But we know, like most people know who will raise children, that most young people at the age of 18 are not grown. They feel like they're grown and they would love to, do grown things. And sometimes they do grown things, but we know that their capacity to make good decisions is not quite there. And so, that's why they still need us, not necessarily at the age of 18 to raise them, because we should have done all the raising by that time. But now our roles switch. So now we become more of a guide or a leader or a mentor, someone who is kind of teaching you and showing you the way. And that's pretty much how that should go. 21. Sometimes some people are saying 21. Yeah, Paula says 21. She believes that, okay, you're an adult. And so most of us think, oh yeah, 21, they're an adult. But then sometimes we have to remind ourselves, because we have a 21-year-old, our youngest is 21. And so sometimes when we're looking at her and some, moves she's making and things she's doing, we're like ready to go, come in. Nope. Let's back up. Let's give her some room to make some decisions for herself. Let's give her some room to make mistakes, because guess what? We made mistakes too. We made mistakes. We made big ones. We made little ones. We made all kinds of mistakes. And I think sometimes we tend to want to prevent our kids from making the same mistakes we made. And I get that, but we can't prevent them from making mistakes, whether they're the same mistakes we made or whether they're just mistakes.
Yeah, and I think it's a few things that are considered there. Number one, each child is different. Some carry a certain maturity and they're acting real mature, and all of a sudden they have that glitch where it's like, oh, they just act their age. They're not acting like they're 20 plus. Now they just act like they're 16, 17. So some children are really advanced. And then some is the conditions. If they're 18 or 19 or 20 or 21, are they in college? They went away. William was our first child to go away.
Right.
So when he went away, the first year he was like, oh, this happened. Oh, I need help. By second year, he was calling back, oh, this happened, but I handled it.
Right.
Oh, this happened, but I already moved.
Right.
I already had to move myself out the door. I went over here. I moved over here. I did that. He started handling things on his own as an adult. It just came naturally because he's out there where he had to, 3,000 miles away or 2,500 or whatever it was. You got to handle it. Right. He's in South Dakota. We here. We can get on a plane and just come there. So it grew him up rather fast in that way. Though he was always a mature child in his mind, even when he left, some of the parents were like, "Well, one reason I'm letting my child go on because William's going like." Don't make my child your child, you know, you're responsible for himself. But anyway, he always had a certain edge of maturity on him. But when he went away, it even enhanced what and who he already was. Now, our daughters, on the other hand, they stayed local. You know, they went to school and things like that, but they stayed local. So it's a little bit different on them have to handle certain responsibilities when you still come home every night, you know, and that kind of thing. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really true. He went away to college, and I was having a conversation with my HR person today at work, and we were just talking about young people. And I was telling him how when our son went away to college, you know, we knew that his lifestyle, the way he was moving, was not like it was when he was home. And so, and it wasn't that he was just doing bad things. I'm not saying that, but you know, things that we as parents are like, oh no, you can't come here and do that. You know, or you can't, you know, stay out, or you can't do this and do that. So when he came back home, he never lived with us. He's never lived with us since he's been home from college. And I don't know if you realize that, but he's never lived with us since he's been home from college. And we knew as parents that he shouldn't live with us since he came home from college, because we knew that his way of thinking, his way of moving was different from when he was home. He's moving different. And so we knew in order to maintain a decent relationship with our son that we needed to let him go. Now, was that easy to let him go? Absolutely not. It was not easy to let him go. But it was
easier because he was away for a while. It was a little easier.
Yeah, it was a little
not like
easier.
He just left here and went, but you know.
Yeah. And I remember too, when our oldest daughter, when she first moved out, she and some friends had gotten an apartment together. I was horrible, okay, as a mom of a young adult. I called her not so much that calling her every day was not good, but I would call her when I would go, call me when you get home, and talk to me the whole way
home.
The whole way from parking your car to getting inside the house. You know, it was kind of like she lives on her own, Kim. You know, you taught her things. Now you need to let her experience making good decisions. And so I was not really ready for her to I was not ready for her to go out on her own. I wasn't. I have to admit that. I was not. Yeah. But she enjoyed it.
She ready now.
She enjoyed it. She enjoyed being out on her own with her roommates and all of that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how can we, as parents of young people, of young adults, what can we do to enhance our relationships with our young adult children, so that, and even our old adult children, so that, you know, we can maintain a decent, you know, healthy relationship with them, and realize that whatever we didn't do when they were young coming up, there's no way that that's going to get done now. They're not even going to receive us that way anymore. And when we do operate like that with our young adults, we enable them. We enable them. We don't, you know, oh, you don't have to get a job. Oh, you don't have to, you know, move out. Oh, you know, they may bring you 2 or 3 kids home or something like that, and you find yourself taking care of, you know, 3, 4, 5 grandkids when that's something that they did. You know, so those are things that we have to be careful of, that we are not guilty of enabling our children to not be successful. Somebody said guilty. And we've all been guilty of doing some things, you know, that have kind of held our children back. But it's not out of any malice or anything. We're trying to hurt our kids, but it really is out of a good place. It's out of the love that we have for them, and we want to protect them and keep them and coddle them and love on them. But when they get grown, they need to go. I'll tell you a funny story about our middle daughter. When we get back, we're going to go to a commercial.
Because self-care should be luxurious. Luxe Noir.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19, but their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
Know that you can now catch the electrifying sounds of Bulletin Flight Radio anywhere you go? Yes, you heard it right. Tune in to the high-flying beats and soaring melodies by downloading the TuneIn app on your mobile device. Just search for Bulletin Flight Radio and hit play. It's that easy. And if you have a smart device like Alexa or Google, just say, "Hey Google," or "Alexa, play Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn." Experience the rush of adrenaline wherever you are. Listen to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn using your Alexa or Google devices. Soaring through the skies has never sounded this good. Don't miss out on the ultimate musical journey. Tune in now to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn and let the music take you on an unforgettable ride. Get ready to elevate your listening experience. Brought to you by Bulletin Flight Radio.
Okay, so we're back, and today we are talking. If you just joined us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But we're here talking about not raising, or the title is "Stop Raising Our Adult Kids," and we already talked about how adult and kids, your adults are not kids. You know, they're your children. They'll always be our children, right? They're always going to be our children. But our adult children, they're not kids. And so we have to be careful that we are not treating them like they are kids, and be careful that we are not talking to them like they are kids, and being disrespectful, you know, to their adulthood. Well, now I'm not talking about the ones who, you know, sleep till 2 o'clock every day and don't do anything, don't have a job. Honestly, if they still, taking space at your spot, that's on you. But we should, at an early age, start preparing our young people in decision making. Very important. And so sometimes we take that away from, our young people, like children, elementary school kids, middle school, high school young people, where we're not allowing them to make decisions. So when they get old, they're like, they don't even know how to make a decision. They're incapable of making a decision, because if it wasn't that you were making all the decisions for them, it was either that or every decision they made, you were knocking it down. Sometimes when the kids make decisions and say that, it's not going to be the best decision, but sometimes they just need to find that out on their own. If it's not something that's going to harm them, maybe sometimes they need to know that wasn't too good of a decision. And when they make those types of decisions, then we shouldn't be like, see, I told you, that was a dumb thing to do. Really? We have to be careful, because you'll make sure, you make your kids like,
I can be petty, y'all, so sorry. Sometimes
you can make your kids retreat and not want to make decisions for themselves. So we have to be careful with that.
That's true.
So it's a few things that I wanted to share with you all.
I don't always say I give that look though. They're like, Dad, we know. I'm like, okay, but I can be petty. I'm scared to make decisions, like she said, because decision making is something that you mature. We had to grow in it.
Right.
I made some bad ones, but sometimes like, oh, that job ain't really a job. That's a commission, get 10 people, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It ain't what you think.
Right.
But you gotta let them experience it first. You were right.
Sometimes they have to experience it and they get it. And I think about all the times that I didn't think my parents knew what they was talking about. I thought they didn't know anything.
Baby.
I thought that I knew everything, and I thought my parents didn't know anything.
Sometimes knew what we was doing, but we thought they did.
And they knew, just like we knew what our children were doing, and they didn't know we knew, but we did know. But the thing of it is that sometimes we got to let them make mistakes, and we got to let them fall, so that they can learn. Sometimes they won't learn if everything is done for them, so.
Take the training wheels off.
Right. Take the training wheels off. So one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that we are maintaining healthy relationships with our kids. That's key. That's really important, that we are maintaining healthy relationships with our kids. So it starts when they're young. So if we have any listeners out there who don't have adult children yet, but you have young children, you have teenagers, really work on developing a healthy relationship with your kids. Because what happens now in their formative years is going to affect everything that they experience and how you all relate to each other when they become older. It was something on Facebook. I reposted it, and one of my fellow Pyros people did a whole show on it. It was a young lady who was talking about parents, and she was basically saying how young people don't want to talk to their parents. And that for valid reasons. They don't want to talk to them because sometimes we can be very punitive. Like he said, sometimes we can be very petty. Sometimes we can be very provocative toward them. Sometimes we can be very judgmental, and all kinds of things.
Even
dismissive, and where we can develop this relationship where they don't want to come talk to us. Why? Because they don't trust us. Your kids have to be able to trust you. Okay. And so when our kids don't trust us, we really have to kind of stop and think about, why don't my kids trust me? Or why doesn't my young person trust me? Mm-hmm. We have to take some ownership in that type of relationship with our young people. So that's real important to know that it's important for our kids to trust us. It's not just important for us to trust them, but it's important for them to trust us as well. So, talking about healthy relationships, what do you consider a healthy relationship with your adult? Because we have we have 4 adult kids.
Wow. We use the term hot, honest, open, and transparent. And sometimes that's really kind of difficult because you want to hear about stuff, but sometimes you don't want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like relationships, such relationship stuff, you know. My son, I can handle better, of course. My daughter's like, and then sometimes you guys obviously hold stuff back from me because you know me. It's like, my daughter, what? I'm going in, you know. So some things have been held back on purpose because I'll go in. But I think healthy is them being able enough to trust me, and I have to even get over my own temper and temperament and be to the point where, okay, Dad, I'm gonna share this with you, but don't go there, don't go off, don't go sweat this person, don't, you know, because you guys, I mean, I'm bishop and all that, but I'm a dad at the end of the day. Right. And those are my daughters, and I care a lot about them. And really, my son kind of has the same mentality as it relates to them, you know, dealing with them. But dealing with him, it's been an alpha thing. As he grows, his alpha thing is coming out more. I'll give you the illustration. We have a boy dog right now. He's about 3 years old. If you put a puppy back there with him now, that puppy's going to really be pushed around by him. But when that puppy grows up, he's going to try to push back. And that's what, you know, the alpha male thing is. And sometimes I feel that from him. I really do, the alpha thing. And then she's in between and says, ooh, I don't like what I'm feeling. Ooh, back. Okay, guys, stop. You know, I mean, we don't wrestle like we used to. We used to actually physically wrestle. I can't anymore. I'm 61 now. But anyway, wrestle and all that kind of stuff. Check you. Yeah. What's up, boy? You know, that kind of thing. But those kind of things can get out of hand. They really can. They can spill over to other things and really become a challenge. So I had to start meeting him at another place, at another level, at another dimension where we don't break down and be in here like fighting like street hoodlums or thugs or something, you know, but just really a good, healthy talk. You know, let's talk this out. Let's see what's up. Let's, you know, and then he says things sometimes like, oh, okay, you know, even some judgmental things about me that he's felt for a while. He never said, but he's saying it now. Like, oh, okay, that's how you felt, you know. I've got to suck it up, take it in, and not be punitive. Well, boom, boom, boom on you. What about you? You know, I got to take it in. Like, okay, all right, I'll take that on the shoulder, on the chin, whatever. Let's push forward, you know, if we can, you know, and usually we do. So. And,
you know, that kind of spills over into one of the things that I wanted to share. And that is when it comes to like developing or maintaining healthy relationships with your young adult kids or young adult children, being able to accept feedback. Okay. That's it. That is sometimes something that we as parents, period, but parents of adult children, sometimes we're a little resistant.
We're reluctant to do it. Yeah.
We're reluctant to accept feedback.
That's true.
But honestly, you know, being a person who's mature, we should be able to receive feedback from anyone.
That's true.
You know, and so it really would strengthen your relationship if you can accept the feedback. And okay, so here's the thing about accepting feedback. When you accept feedback, it doesn't mean you agree with what's being said. It just means that that person is giving you feedback. They're giving you feedback on what they think, how they feel about a certain situation. And the best way for us to show consideration to our adult kids is, you know, we can say something like, you know what? Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that feedback. And I'm going to think about that. I'm going to take it under consideration. And
you always feel good.
But you know, instead of saying something like, what do you know? you still wet behind the ears.
Right,
You don't know nothing.
right.
You know, you ain't lived long enough to tell me anything.
I got one little thing we saw on social media, because you got you a little job, now you think you little degree and everything is little, so you got you a little apartment, you got your little car, you start almost belittling them.
You do. That is belittling.
Put Stephanie back up. Stephanie made a comment. I think it was pretty good. Stephanie Williams had a comment.
Said be approachable and good listeners by hearing them out before we as parents draw conclusions.
Very good.
Exactly.
Very
exactly. Good. Be approachable and listen. Sometimes you just have to go mute. Shut up. Listen. Nod your head a couple times. Even if you're in your mind, you're saying, what in the world? But just remember being a young person and feeling like my parent doesn't understand me. My parents don't talk to me. They don't like me, or whatever you may have felt as a young person. Put yourself in their place and always be like Miss Stephanie said, be approachable. That's so key. That's so important. Okay. Now, here's something else that I think is extremely important. Okay. Learn how to have constructive conflict, because you're not always going to agree. When you're dealing with your young adult people, you're not always going to agree with them, right? But if we disagree or we have conflict in a constructive way, right, then we can kind of like work through some things. But if we have unhealthy conflict, then that's going to cause a lot of problems in the relationship. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of that unhealthy conflict starts when they're young. It starts when they're young.
Unpack that.
The way we approach them with certain things. You talked about belittling them. Even the way we relate to one another, how we handle our conflict between the two of us and they're watching. We're being an example of what communication is like. So they take all that information into their relationships. The way we talk to them, they're children, when they're little, they're children. We don't have to talk so harsh, and so hard to them. They get it if you talk in a normal tone. They can hear you just as well. And as a matter of fact, they probably will tune you out if you do all that yelling and screaming and talking crazy to them. So those are things that we have to be careful of. Giving the silent treatment, to your kids, not talking to them because they're not doing the things you want them to do, being passive aggressive, or this one right here is probably one of the things that a lot of us as parents of adult young people is guilt trips. Putting our kids on guilt trips. If you are still supporting your adult child financially, this isn't it my way or the highway. Yeah, but I mean, you're just gonna keep on supporting them and just keep on having it my way or the highway. At some point, that's when that nurturing part of you or that instruction part of you needs to kick in, or maybe that tough love part of you needs to kick in so that they can understand that they have to be responsible for themselves. Yeah, I get it. What you're saying. My way or the highway. And I'm not saying that they should have rule over our house if they're living at home or any of that. But I feel like there comes a time where we should at least sit down and talk to them like they are adult people, and require that they behave as adult people, or maybe then it will be the highway. Highway. Okay. So another thing too is, and I think we kind of touched on this already, is when we're talking to them, talk to them like they are adults. Don't talk to them like they're 15. I think that's probably one of the bigger complaints that sometimes our older young people, may say, it's like, why are you talking to me like I'm a kid? I'm not a kid. And I'm not talking about the ones that are still sleeping on your couch or still napping till 2. I'm talking about the ones who live on their own, the ones who are paying their own bills, taking care of themselves. Maybe they're taking care of their own households. And sometimes I'll just go a step further. I remember a couple times when my dad said some things to me that really put me in a different place with him, because I was a mother of 3. I was a first lady of a church. I was a married woman. I was an employee. I was doing all the things that I needed to do as an adult. And my father, bless his heart, he had a way of talking. And this particular day, I remember he said something to me that hurt my feelings so bad. And it wasn't so much, I was kind of used to him saying stuff, but the thing of it was, he said it in front of other people, and he embarrassed me. He embarrassed me. And it took me a minute to get over that. So we have to be careful that we are not humiliating, that we are not talking down, that we're not putting our children in place of being embarrassed.
Because you're his daughter, but not his little child or kid anymore.
I'm not his little girl. I wasn't his little girl at that point. I was somebody's wife. Heck, I was somebody's first lady. You know what I mean? It was like I had a whole different role going on in my life. I was 3 people's mama. And so, you saying what you say to me, it was very hurtful. And so think about it. I am going to be 60 in October. I still remember that. Now, am I still mulling over it? No, I'm not. I'm not still, affected in that way, but I remember it. So that means it was eventful. So we have to be careful with the things that we say, because some of those things will stick with our young people. They'll stick with our children, and they'll be holding on to something that you didn't even remember what you said because they got hurt by it. Okay, so the other thing is respecting boundaries, and that goes both ways. Okay, respecting boundaries, and then being able to let go. Okay, so when we're talking about young adults, being the parent of a young adult, being a parent of a young person, we're talking about going from the role of being the primary caregiver to going into being that supportive role. So you're no longer the person that does everything for them, but now you're the person that supports them, encourages them, kind of, tells them, hey, if you need me, I'm here. Not so much always giving advice that they didn't ask for. That right there is one of the biggest complaints that I think our young people may have from us as their parents, is giving advice that they did not ask you for. It's like, did they ask you to give them that advice? No. And when they want your advice, they're going to ask you for it. They will ask you for it. So we talked about avoid of enabling them, encouraging independence, shifting your perspective of being the main person that cares for them, teaches them, does all this stuff, and shifting that perspective to them being an independent person. Hey, I get it. I love my kids. I do. I love all 4 of them. The 37-year-old, the 35-year-old, the 31-year-old, and the 21-year-old. And if you ask me today, yes, they are all my babies. But I realize, and it took me a minute to get here, but I realize that they are grown adults. Now, do they always move the way I think they should? No. But did I move the way my parents thought I should? Heck no. Absolutely not. So we have to be sure that we are like speaking life into our young people. Speak life into them. Don't be so critical all the time. that's something else that we as adult parents do, is we are so dang critical about everything they do, as if we did all the right things when we were their age. We didn't. Who did all the right things when we were their age? We did not do that. So we have to be fair.
Give allowance.
Give allowance. We have to be fair. Be fair.
Put that comment back up real quick.
Yeah.
When you just had up.
Oh, this is good, and it's hard. He's failing at life miserably with children.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to watch it.
It's hard to watch it. It's hard to watch it. You know, and in some cases, what else can we do for them? If you are a praying person, you know, we have to just believe and trust that everything that we put inside of them, you know, is one day is going to rise to the surface. It's going to work. You know, we got to have some confidence in the stuff that we taught them. And then all we can do is pray, you know, and ask God to have mercy on our child, and to, you know, give them, you know, the tools that they need, or whatever tools we put inside of them or we gave them when they were young. Let that stuff start working for them. But I think the best thing to do is be open and be available.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so hard now. And you mentioned with children, I mean, we're like, what, mid-80s getting married. Our first home was $75,000. That's a car now. You know what I mean? And I can't even imagine trying to buy a house now as a young person, not, you know, get beyond rent. I mean, rent is high enough, but to try to actually purchase a house now, I mean, a median house, $500,000, $600,000, that's $500,000 basically investment, you know. So there's a lot of ways that we have to really support our children mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, you know, and really try to help them, because they're facing a lot right now. I don't envy anybody trying to get a start right now. Getting a start right now ain't no joke.
Right.
You know, you got these instant millionaires overnight that are put on 5-minute TikTok, and then they're millionaires, and your kid looking at that saying, well, if they did it, I can do it. And I work for them like I work for this other person, you know.
Right.
Or somebody's rap career took off, that was their next door neighbor, and I think, oh, I never get a rap too, you know. But it's just, everything don't work for everybody, you know. And sign that big superstar contract, you know, movie star or football player or whatever, and they think, oh, that's it. Because social media is blowing up so much now and making them think they're behind. You're behind. You're a failure. You're not here yet. You're 25, you thought you were going to be here. You're 30, you thought you were going to be here. You're 50, you thought you were going to, I mean, all those things hit your mind. It hit our mind now where we are, you know. I mean, we got friends that, you know, balling out, doing it big, you know. I mean, we're doing okay for ourselves, praise be to God. I mean, thank God for that, you know. But sometimes it's hard not to compare. And we say what we want to say. It ain't jealousy. It's not, you know, envy or none of that. It's just seeing what's happening. You know?
And that's something too, what you just said, that's really important too, is not to make our young adult children feel like we are comparing ourselves to them. Well, when we were your age, we was doing this. And when we were your age, we were doing that.
Yeah, 3 kids already.
Yeah, when we were your age, we had a house, and we had this, and we had a career, and we had a degree, and that's beautiful, you know. But you know, we struggled as well.
That's crazy.
I remember being married, having children, and sometimes we had to go get the light bill from his dad. You know, it's like we needed help, you know, and so we were blessed that we had parents that were first of all willing to help us, and then able to help us. And so that was always one of my prayers, because I was always so appreciative of the help that our parents gave us when we were young, coming up, trying to raise a family. I always appreciated that. So I always wanted to be in a position where my kids could come to me and I would be able to help them. You know, and I may not be able to do everything that they need me to do, but I can do something. If it's just even saying, okay, let's try this a different way, or, you know, let's put this here, put that there, and if you turn that around, it'll work. You know, giving that good advice, especially when they are asking for it and not just giving it
Right.
because you think you see what needs to be done. And let me tell you, I see what's going on. Let me tell you how to handle that. Nobody asked you.
Not always good.
Nobody asked you for your opinion.
Not always good.
Okay. Keep your humble opinion to yourself. Sometimes we can be sitting there watching our kids and we be like, we see it coming a mile away, but sometimes you just have to be still and trust what you put in them. Now, am I saying, let a big, Mack truck hit them in the face? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying sometimes we have to let them experience life so they can get the experience to make better decisions. And that, decisions are just that, making a choice. And sometimes the choice doesn't always work out. One other thing that I wanted to talk about too is, and I kind of touched on it, but I think this is really important to kind of talk about, and I want you to talk about it some too, is avoiding criticism. Okay. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we avoid their choices in dress, their choices in people, their choices in jobs, careers, degrees, their choices in how they raise their kids. Honestly, none of that is our business. When they're out on their own, doing their own thing. Now, I'm not talking about when they, if they got 5 kids at our house and their kids are running amok. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about when, our kids are living their life, making choices for themselves, but we have all these opinions about what they're doing, and all this criticism, it only puts a wedge and a divide in our relationships with them. Now, am I saying we shouldn't be honest with them and speak on things? That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that the criticism and all that advice given that you're doing, they're not hearing you. Not if they don't want it. You just, you blowing in the wind. Let them figure out that whatever they're doing is not working and let them come to you and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, auntie, hey, uncle, hey, grandma, grandpa, whomever. Can I talk to you about something? I need some advice on something. And they will come to you if they trust you. If they trust you. Okay? So let's just keep in mind that being the parent of adult children is not easy. My grandmother used to say something when my oldest daughter was a baby. When my two oldest girls were young, and I would always say, oh, I can't wait till they become teenagers and we're gonna have so much fun. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait till they become young adults. And my grandmother would always say, she said, you just don't even understand. She said, this is the cycle of life. She said, they're in your arms, they're on your lap, they're at your knee. She said, but when they're on your heart, that's the hardest place for you to be a parent, is when your children are on your heart. That means you have no control of what's going on with them. The only thing you can do is pray and hope that all the things that you placed inside of them are going to work.
Right. That
all the things that you placed inside of them are taking root. And so that's our show tonight.
That's it. We
just wanted to share a few things. Yeah, we don't have all the the information, but we do. We have some really good kids.
Good stuff.
Thank you. We have some pretty good kids. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. Why? Because they come from 2 imperfect parents. Oh yeah, honey, you're not perfect. Oh, that's you.
I really needed this. Bless you, Leslie. Coach Leslie.
Bless you. Yeah. No, we want to encourage you. We want to encourage you to be a friend and a confidant and a coach. you know, and what is it? A mentor, you know, a guide, somebody that they can count on. Somebody's not going to judge them. You're going to accept them, you know. In your heart, you may be saying one thing, but your lips should be saying something that's encouraging. And, you know, that's not going to drive them away. Don't drive your kids away.
And Coach Leslie, thank you for being transparent.
Absolutely.
You know, even with the title of coach, sometimes it seems like the thing we do the most is not even being accepted by those we're supposed to be really ministering to or talking to or coaching up. So stay encouraged, that Coach Leslie. Yeah. You know, however we can help you in any kind of way, you know, make the hook up or whatever, but you just hang in there. It's gonna be okay. I promise you.
It's gonna be all right.
It's gonna be all right.
It's gonna be all right.
Chill, good stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be all right.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
it's gonna be all right. Yeah. It's not easy being a parent of adult children. It's just not. It's not easy. And I don't think it ever will be easy, you know, because you love them so much. You know, you always want the best for them. But sometimes we have to take the hands off and let them use all that good stuff that you put inside of them and all those prayers.
Or use the illustration of training wheels. You know, you training wheels, you can take them off, you let them ride a little bit, you're running behind them and catching them, make sure they don't fall, catching them, then after a while, you let them go, you look back, what? Just hold on, you're doing okay. But they're going to fall, scrape a knee, but they got to get back on that bike and ride it again. And as things get better, that knee is going to heal, the scar is going to be gone.
That's right.
And we'll move on.
So that's right. And that's life.
Real simple analogy I could put out there.
That's life. So thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe. And we appreciate the fact that you take the time out to just spend time with us on every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. So until the next time, you take care and you stay safe.
Love y'all.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.